Okay, now what I want to do is I want to frame in this skylight here. So I measured from the center of this beam, this main beam here, to the center of that beam. And I went over here in the model, and here it is, the center of that beam to the center of this beam. Then I took my carling, which is right here, and that's this piece right here, and I set it in here so the ends of it fall in the center. Okay, there's the opening, and there it is on the plans. So I want to frame this in outside of the hull, because I have to cut little notches to set these carlings down into the beam. So I'll show you how I'm going to do that. Okay, once I got the length of my beams, the next thing I did was I clamped them together like this. Okay, now what I'm going to do is we're going to zoom in here like this, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to measure the length of the beam. Alright, and it is 3.608, so half of that is 1.804. So I'm going to come down here to 1.804, lock that in, and go ahead and measure and get the center of my beam. Okay, and that is right here. Okay, that's the center of the beam. Now the next thing I want to do is get the size of my opening. So I want to go right here to the inside of my beams, or my carlings, and they are from center 575. Okay, let me lock that in. Okay, 575. So from my center, I'm going to mark this thing right here, 575. From center, mark it 575. Okay, now I want to draw a line right where the inside of those carlings are going to go. They're going right there. Okay, same thing over here. Right there. Okay, now I have the inside of my opening. So the carlings are going to go like this. That's where they go. So my next move is I'm going to take these carlings and I want to glue them in place. And what I want to do is give it just a tiny little tab, just a little bit of 5-minute epoxy there. Okay, now I want to make sure it's going to be square, so I'm going to use this square, and I want to set this carling halfway between this beam right here. So I'm going to set it down in there like so, and then square it up. Now I'm only going to do one end of the carling at a time to ensure that everything is going to be square. Okay, so I'm going to... Okay, that's it. That's where I want that that joint to be. So I'm going to let that set up, Then I'm going to do the next one over. Make sure it's square. Okay, that's it. I'm going to let it set. Okay, see, this is what I did. Was I glued these carlings on here, on this deck beam like this. And I did the same on this side. Like this. Okay. And now, what I have is I have these temporarily glued in place. So now the next thing I want to do is I want to glue the other end onto the other deck beam. But you can see how it moves, and it moves this way. So what I want to do is make sure that I get this beam exactly centered. Okay, and the way I'm going to do that is to put it back into the hull. Okay, what I did was I glued these carlings here on top of these deck beams, and so now I could pull this out of here as a unit. Okay, see, now this is what I've got. Now the reason that I glued these carlings on top of these beams is to hold all of this structure in place. You see, so that way I can keep it square like this, and I have this square, and I have these in the proper location, and they won't move. So what I want to do now is I want to cut notches in the top of these deck beams. In order to do that, well, let's zoom in. And what I did was I took this saber saw blade, and what I did was, you see what I did? I ground a chisel end on it. Alright, now I'm going to zoom out a little bit so you can see what I'm doing here. Okay, same on this side. I'm going to put it against my carling right at the end. Give it a little tap. Okay, same thing over here. And the last one on this side. Like so. I think I can make this one a little bit deeper. There, that's better. Okay. And what I also did is when I made my little chisel, I made the width of this right here exactly the width of the carling. So when I put it on the end, I got an exact cut. Now I'm going to do the same thing for this carling. I'm using this wood right here, under here, because this is arched, and if I just set it on the table, it's going to bounce down. So that's why I have it on this piece of wood. So I'm going to do the same thing. So now you can see why I glued these temporarily in place, because you see I can go all around it and mark them without having anything move on me. So I'll have a precise location now for these notches. After you've broken off your carlings, and after you've used your little homemade chisel here, what it did was it left a very neat and sharp cut right where the notch goes. See it there? Okay? And then when you clean that notch out, you're going to naturally get a very nice tight fit. See? Okay, what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut out this notch right now so you can see how I do it, and then you can go ahead and do the rest of them on the model. So I'm going to start by turning it on an angle and making my first cut right here from the center to the end. Okay, I don't know if you can see that, but I cut a notch out right here. Okay, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut a notch out on this side. Okay, see it coming out right here? This is it. Cut it out of there. So now I have, see the notches I made? Okay, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take out this center point, which is right here. Alright, that's my next cut. So I'm going to go into here, put my fingers on this side in case it slips. See here, I cut this out of there. Right here I'm going to cut out again, go a little bit deeper. Ooh, there it goes. See, I just knocked it right out. Okay. Now I pretty much got my notch already. Now all I have to do is deepen it. So I'm going to go back now and just take light cuts out with my X-Acto. And then come in here on the sides, cut them out. Like this. Okay, take it off on this side. Clean up the back. Okay. Let's take a look. See how it's making it a little bit deeper in there now? And here it is. I got some cutting to do right in this area right here. So I'm going to clean that up a bit. So what I'm doing now is I'm just taking very light cuts back and forth in here, kind of shaving it off. And what I want to do is I want this notch to go about halfway down this beam. Okay, now I could just kind of clean up the back there a little bit. See, it's coming down a little bit more off of this side, I think. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to use a single edge razor blade, and I'm going to come in here and I'm going to deepen that stop cut on that side and on this side. I'm not going to worry about the back cut because that I could just slice with an X-Acto knife. Okay, now that I've deepened those, you see where I've deepened them? You could see the cut in here. See how it's going down? Okay, so then when I come in there, see here it click and stop, it stops at that cut. That's why they call it a stop cut. Same on this side. Did you hear that click? It comes out. It's nicely forming up. I think this is one of the nice parts about model building is sitting here and hand cutting these like this. A lot of guys, when they build these models, they're using all of these miniature precision milling machines and stuff. Well, once I get my work down to this stage, I like to do it all by hand myself, just for the sake of doing it by hand. And you can see, I can hand cut a notch as well as any $1,500 milling machine. Okay, maybe even better, because I can get nice, clean, sharp corners. So that didn't take long, you know. That's about it. Well, I'm going to go a little bit deeper. Once again, I'm going to go back to my stop cut with my razor blade here. Just push it down. Push it down on that side. And you can see there's the stop cut right there. Okay, so I'm going to cut down to it. Now if you listen carefully, you can hear it when it hits the cut. Now here we go. That click tells me it's there. In the back you just make a very slight slice like that. Once again, now we're going to do this side. Clicked out. And there we go. Now we're a little uneven, so I'm going to take just a little bit more out of here. A little bit more. Okay. Now I can see this edge right here is not exactly going straight down. Okay, so what I have to do is I have to clean up that corner. So I'm going to go in here with my X-Acto and come down nice and square and even. Pop that out of there. There we go. Now I have it square. So let's see how this is going to fit. Okay, now that we've pretty much finished cutting it, I'm going to take the carling and we're going to slip it back in there. And it's a perfect fit. Okay, so that's how you cut the notch. And then for the end of the carling, we're going to take it and we're going to set this beam, push it right in like so, take an X-Acto and mark it. You can see my little hole right there. And I'm going to take that little hole, take the single edge razor blade, and just rock it back and forth. See, that cuts down really fast, and I'm probably halfway through it now. So once you get it that far, you just pop it right off of there just like that, and then clean it up a little. See, so what I did was I made that notch right here. Like I said, once again, we'll just clean it up, square it up. Okay, there's my notch. And that notch is going to be fitting right into here. But not quite, you see. I gotta move this on over a little bit more. So, take a little bit more off of here. Okay. Pop it off with the X-Acto. So we're gonna go back and forth until that fits in there. See, it's still a little shy, so I'm going to just eyeball it in here. You can't go wrong when you're doing this, because I'll show you in a minute. You could always cut a little off of this end, you know, if you took too much off of here. Now let's take another look. Oh, that's it. We have a perfect joinery right now. And that's how you fit the carling into the deck beam. So now we're going to go ahead and I'll do this notch right here, and I'll get it to match up that other beam wherever it went. Oh man, it's somewhere on the table. I hope I don't have to make another one, so I'll have to search for it. It's funny how things just kind of disappear right in front of your eyes, you know that? Happens all the time in model shipbuilding. You know, that darn thing is nowhere in sight. Okay, if I find it, we'll get back to it or make another one.